Hey guys, welcome back to Ancient Literature. All right, I don't have a ton of notes, but we want to finish up Book 9 real quick. I am going to give you guys a break on a quiz today. So there's no quiz. Um, yeah. Uh, my reasoning for this is this isn't the most exciting book to me in terms of the notes. The plot of it's kind of cool, but it wasn't as dense in terms of uh, there being a lot of connections to like Roman history and stuff like we saw in book 8. So we'll get back into that next week. We might pick up the pace a little bit to get through 10 and 11 a little more quickly than just spending a week on each book. And then hopefully for maybe the end of the final book, we can maybe do a Zoom call or something where I force you guys to read like some of the actual book out loud, so that we can finish it all together. But anyway, we are working our way towards Shakespeare. I have a couple poems to share at the end of this video, which is super exciting, and we'll get to that in just a second. Okay, so yeah, the main plot of this book is that Nisus and Euryalus, these two young Trojans, decide that they want to be brave and seek glory by sneaking into the Rutulian camp and not only stealing loot, but killing a bunch of them in their sleep, which is pretty admirable, right? No, I don't know. I guess it does end up being really brave of them to try this, but just like when Diomedes and Odysseus did this in Iliad, there was kind of that moral gray area where we were left wondering if what they were doing was very respectable. But anyway, so let's see here. They're deciding to carry out this plan. They tell some of the generals in the Trojan encampment, and the generals are impressed. And then yeah, we get some like pretty gnarly descriptions all throughout this book. We've gone most of this poem without too much of this kind of stuff. And so I'm definitely reminded of Iliad seeing some of the violence in this book. So yeah, they're lolling. They hack their lolling necks and lop the heads of their masters, so on and so forth. He cuts down Lemurus too, Lamus and Serranus, well-built soldiers. He'd gamed away till late at night and now lay numb in a drunken haze. So these are easy kills for them. These Latin and Rutulian soldiers are tired from battling all day, and they're even potentially drunk. Okay, so they're killing more people in the upper right text box, killing all kinds of people, including King Turnus's favorite prophet, this Ramnes guy. No prophecy could now save him from death. But they get maybe a little too carried away. Euryalus puts this nice helmet on his head, and as they are leaving, the gleam of the helmet catches the eye of some Rutulians who are returning to the camp, who were doing their own kind of night watch themselves. And then so they get into a big fight, and Nisus gets killed initially, dying just as he stripped his enemy of his life. So he's taking a life even as he's dying. Riddled with wound on wound, he threw himself on the lifeless friend, Euryalus. Oh, does Euryalus already die at this point? Okay, weird. How fortunate, both at once. But then we have this interesting comment from um, Virgil about how his poem will have the power to preserve their memory. If my song has any power, the day will never dawn that wipes you from the memory of the ages, not while the house of Aeneas stands by the Capitol's rock unshaken, not while the Roman fathers rule the world. So this is a much more tragic night raid than the one Diomedes and Ajax did, which just ended up working out in their favor, and they obviously did not die. So here it is. I guess I kind of mixed up the order there. So Euryalus, sword drawn, Nisus terrified, frenzied, no more hiding in shadows, and yeah, they both die. He writhes in death. His blood flows over his shapely limbs. So they die kind of in each other's company for what that's worth. So in this final moment of glory, they go out with a bang, but at least they're together, just like they were during this big climactic raid. And yeah, Virgil comments on the power of his song to preserve the memory of these two young men. All right, the rest of the book has a lot of Helm's Deep style combat and it's very much returning to the mood of Iliad, um, for better or for worse, depending on what you like. And yeah, the Rutulians end up burning down a big watchtower outside of the Trojan encampment, killing a lot of guys. And then Turnus actually gets within the walls and causes a lot of chaos. So we were wondering, is this Turnus? Is he actually going to be the new Achilles, this main opponent for the Trojans now, just like Achilles was for the Trojans back in the Trojan War? And it kind of seems like it. So yeah, in this upper right, you can see he's just kind of wilding out in the Trojan camp within the Trojan camp, which is very bold. Twice he charged the thick of foes, twice he broke their lines, stampeding the Trojans down their walls at speed, but a whole battalion marching out of the camp comes massing hard against him. Not even Juno dares reinforce his power to counterattack. So, like, Juno's like, you did pretty good, but I can't help you at this point now that you're getting surrounded by a battalion. And so he throws himself into the Tiber, his entire body rivering down, black with filth, can't catch his breath, plunging into the river, armor and all. And the Tiber swept him into its yellow tide, catching him as he came, then bore him up in its soothing waves and bathing away the carnage. Gave the elated fighter back to friends. So yeah, this guy, he was very daring. Just as Nisus and Euryalus were, so too were Turnus. So too was Turnus rather. And yeah, so one little point I'll make before we're wrapping this up is that we kind of have this parallel uh, action going on this book in terms of the way the Trojans and Rutulians are operating. Nisus and Euryalus demonstrated this intense bravery on the part of the Trojans, whereas Turnus is doing that in equal measure for the Rutulians. And then in terms of something we kind of mentioned last video, is that both sides have their own goddess who is pulling strings and or sending signs from Olympus. We had Iris giving Turnus this rainbow omen. It was a good omen earlier in the book, and then later when the Rutulian try to burn down the ships and they turn into nymphs, that in its own weird way is a sign to the Trojans. So yeah, that's about it for that book. Um, yep, we'll try to at least be getting into book 11 by the end of next week, so that we'll probably only end up having 2 more weeks on this poem. We're definitely getting to the end there. All right. I have two amazing poems to share. These are the first two poems I got turned in. I have at least two more to show, but I'm going to probably save those for Monday so that I definitely have some to show on Monday. And yeah, throughout the next week or so, hopefully I'll be able to show 2 or 3 every video. Next Friday, it'll probably be more. It might be like the rest of them since they're due next Wednesday, obviously. But yeah, the earlier you turn it in, the better. Okay, so this one is by Redacted, and it's really good. The one downside of this is that I guess you're going to have to hear me recite your poems, so I apologize. Obviously, it would be better if it was like you guys or the people who are writing them, but this way people get to be anonymous, and I don't know, if you end up with a poem you're really proud of, maybe we can have a Zoom session in a week or two and people can actually read their own work. But this is called Together We Stand, and try to think of what form it is as I'm reading it. Okay, we are social distancing, stuck indoors. The virus is spreading, there is no cure. Everyone buying everything in stores. Things will get better sometime soon for sure. People are sick and people are dying. We already have so many losses to grieve. Everyone believes it's terrifying. Things are always brighter once the clouds leave. Now, while it may be as dark as nighttime, we can count the stars till day comes again. We can all have a little bit of downtime, maybe become a little more humane. Again, from a distance, we will soar and keep running till we can run no more. All right, this is a Shakespearean sonnet, which is awesome. Like, it's, yes, thank you. Okay, now, if no one else ends up doing a sonnet, I'll at least be satisfied that one person did. Um, Great use of end-stopped lines. So if y'all remember my sonnet, which is not nearly as good as this one, obviously, I had a lot of enjambment in that my lines are almost always kind of flowing into the next line in terms of like grammatically and punctuation wise. Now, this poet didn't actually put periods at the end of her line, I mean their lines, but you basically could add a period to most of the end of these lines, which is impressive to me. It's meaning this person wrote 10 beat iambic pentameter lines that are almost always actually ending at the end of the line. So I could have gone in, I guess, and tried to add periods myself. But yeah, basically for the majority of these lines, there could, or I guess maybe should, I don't know, be a period, and there isn't enjambment. So I'm actually more impressed by that than a poem that has a lot of enjambment. This appears to have enjambment, but yeah, like if you go through most of these lines, they're actually complete sentences and complete thoughts individually, and that's really cool. Also, there's a straight up volta after the octave. That's amazing. So after these first two quatrains, we get it kind of all of a sudden it gets a little more uplifting. The second stanza is reasonably a little more troubled, which is definitely reflects everything that's going on. But then this volta. Now, while it may be as dark as nighttime, and things start to change, and the poet or the perspective gets a little more optimistic and hopeful, and that's just really cool because that means not only is this doing the rhyme scheme, it's doing the iambic pentameter, it's even doing a volta, a shift, right, a shift in tone, and that's really cool. There's that rhyme scheme, just in case you want to review a Shakespearean sonnet rhyme scheme. All right, good job. Amazing. Truly. It's awesome. Okay, we have one more for today, and then we're done. This one is really interesting. So this is not a set form that I talked about the other week. I mean, I only talked about sonnet and haiku, basically. But so it's not quite that, but there is some logic to it, and there you can tell the form actually was thought out, but it's very distinct. I would have named the form, but since this is another anonymous one, um, I don't know if I guess I could think of something that doesn't just use the person's name. But this is 8 beats per line. All of the lines except the very last one are 8 beats, and that means it's tetrameter. Remember, pentameter is 5 iambs. Iambs consist of 2 syllables, so we have 4 metrical units per line, and since those metrical units are 2 beats per unit, it's an 8 beat thing. And then the rhyme scheme is pretty interesting. So it's A A B B C C, then 4 Ds, 4 Es, and then an F. So it's like we have 3 couplets, 2 quatrains, and then right at the end there's a shift that almost reminds one of a sonnet. But I'll read this real quick. Okay, hunger, boredom, tired, antsy, scorching, freezing, never, dandy, lazy, fatigued, craving, prickly, angry, always hating, downcast, depressed, somber, bitter, fun and delight, never enter, eating, playing, reading, drinking, fun pursuits, but always craving, longing, yearning, pining, wishing for a moment to stop thirsting. I've always been content inside, my feeling towards it calcified. I'd rather spend my day outside than being forced to live inside. And all that keeps me going is a good cup of coffee. So that almost counts as a volta, like almost like right at the end. This one has some of the same themes as the last poem, where people are kind of expressing like, yeah, this is kind of a weird little stretch of time here. I think we're all eager for the end of May or June, whenever things probably will return to normal. Maybe this one's a little more playful or something, but then right at the end, it does kind of shift, and there's that awesome typographical flair where coffee gets its own font. That's like really cool. And that last line is septimeter, meaning it is 14 syllables, 7 metrical units, and that's kind of cool. There's lots of slant end rhyme, meaning the end rhyme is usually the rhyme is happening in the final syllable, which is, I guess, the most important part to have rhyme happening. And yeah, just the whole variation going on here is interesting to me. We hit that middle quatrain, drinking, craving, wishing, thirsting, and we have that repetition of a present active verb ending. And then the E one, we have inside, calcified, outside, inside, and it's kind of doing the same thing. So yeah, there's like a surprising amount of like structural integrity and logic to this one, despite the fact that it's like a totally unique form, which I encourage you guys to do. You can do like super free form and almost go out of your way to avoid rhyme and consistent metrical rhythms, but It's cool if you kind of decide what you want your form to be, like this person clearly did. Um, all right, guys, these are really cool. I appreciate those who are turning it in early and who are allowing me to share them. I really appreciate it, honestly. I hope I'm not like embarrassing you guys too much by reading them. But yeah, I have two more really good ones. It's just like I said, I want to be able to have some for Monday. All right, guys. On Monday, I will assign the reading. Actually, you should check the form. I'll probably break. I'll tell you to start reading some of book 10 over the weekend or so, or during class time on Monday, probably. But so check the form for that, and have a good weekend. And I'll see y'all next week.